Well, hi there. You're looking nice today.
That's creepy.
Maybe to you, somebody out there might actually dig this. Just ignore him. Hi. So we were trying to think up a sub genre for this particular thing we're doing. We watched the movie Night Teeth on Netflix, and it was a snap decision because it was a movie that neither one of us had seen, and it was fairly new. And I just kind of wanted to do something because it was October, something spooky.
Yeah.
And it was not spooky. But we're going to call this particular movie review category COVIDeos.
The sort of movies that you can stream at home, and generally newer releases, things that just kind of go like straight to streaming. Kind of like back in the day when things would go straight to VHS. The quality that you could trust, the straight to VHS movie.
Return of Jafar, the second Aladdin movie. So good.
Of all of the Disney movies that had sequels, Return of Jafar is probably a decent enough one. Is it a good movie? Not particularly.
I have not seen it. It just was the first thing that popped into my head.
Okay. I mean, you've got like The Little Mermaid too, where it's the same story but in reverse with her daughter, versus like Return of Jafar. He comes back and he's like an evil genie, so it's pretty. Again, this is not about.
Okay, hold on. Wait. I have to broach this real quick.
Yeah,
so,
okay.
The second Little Mermaid movie is about her wanting to
Daughter wanting to.
So Ariel
be a
went
mermaid.
back to the ocean?
No, her daughter. Ariel and Eric have a kid, and that kid wants to go to the ocean because she's like, I belong on the. Whereas Ariel wants to be on the land, her daughter wants to be in the sea, and then it's like reverse.
A reverse fish out of water movie?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not going to watch that. That
No.
doesn't sound like anything I want to watch.
So, I guess this little category is the stuff that kind of comes straight to streaming. Stuff that, if you're ever stuck at home during a year and a half sort of, I don't know, event that goes on and you can't really get out to theaters for whatever reason, maybe there's something good on streaming to watch. And what's this movie? Let's put it on. And
we have to decide if we want to like Squid Game.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's anything you want to watch, but it's like a series of episodes, and I don't know.
we could put series on here eventually.
Yeah, but
Not necessarily by episode, but
yeah, but it's just shit that you can watch from your house. You don't have to go to the theater. It's brand new, and like I said, the biggest reason that we decided to watch it is because, hey Nick,
when was the last time you went to the theater?
Yeah, and it was just kind of like, okay, let's just watch this movie. It's supposed to be spooky because it has vampires in it.
That's.
Oh shit! Spoiler warning.
Oh, so we are. Well, I think that's. I think the poster has vampires on it, but so we are going to talk fairly, not necessarily in depth, but we're going to go through specific parts of the movie. Therefore, spoilers.
You said that the poster has vampires on it, but I guarantee you, there's 5 people that were like, "I thought it was a door-to-door dentist."
No.
That does all this stuff after hours.
He needs to lay up off the drill.
Night Teeth. It's the movie. It's the horror movie about the real tooth fairy.
So I guess since we're going to talk about spoilers, do we want to at the start say what we think it is, and then if at this point in time you've kind of got an idea of what movies we like?
Yeah, people think we're lame. They can just go ahead and.
Well, then if they gave it a high, low, mid review, and I've listened to some of their other reviews, and they kind of coincide with my opinion. Maybe I'll skip this one, or maybe they gave it an okay review. I guess I'll watch it, and then come back and watch the rest of this video where we talk in depth, spoilery about it.
No, I think it's a good idea, but I will say that the reason this movie was picked is it was the #1 trending movie in the United States of America on Netflix, and I was like,
according to Netflix.
Yeah, according to Netflix, and Squid Game was the one that did that. I watched Squid Game, good show. Mm-hmm. Predictable as hell, but good. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, well, maybe this will be a really good movie. So, with no further ado, what did you think?
So, from 0 to 10, with 5 being like directly in the middle, I would give Night Teeth a 4, and that it's like just slightly below average.
We mirror each other exactly on this one because I gave the movie a 4 as well. It wasn't a middle of the road movie to me. It was enjoyable without being ridiculous. But like, also keep in mind that I was watching this movie at 12 o'clock at night when my wife and my baby were sleeping. I had the subtitles on. So it was like I was double subbing it in some places when they were speaking Spanish. And,
Well, I gave this movie like as much of a chance as I've given pretty much any movie that we've kind of thrown down and watched. Like when you said Fright Night's one of my favorite movies, I'm like, okay, no distractions whatsoever. And sit down and watch it. Like this one, I like just sat and watched it. And,
Yeah. Well, I don't want to go like whole hog on, and this is probably going to be a substantially like shorter video.
I certainly hope so.
No, I mean, it's like I wrote down stuff for Josie and the Pussycat. For this movie, it's just I kind of watched it, and like at the beginning of it, I was kind of like, okay. And I got to about just before the halfway mark, and I was like, I'm not right now. It's, it was decent. It's a fun watch. But there are so many plot holes. Like, if you want to hold it to like the testament of like what a vampire movie is and what are the rules, this is like one of the worst movies to do that on because
they don't.
Yeah, no.
It's so at this point, let's talk a bit more in depth about the movie. So,
spoilers.
So if hearing that we think it's a 4, you want to go watch it. I didn't do that now.
Yeah. Like, cut this off, go watch the movie, then come back. And, even though we've said spoilers, we're probably not going to go into a lot of stuff in depth because most likely I'm just going to lampoon this movie for the most part. Like, all the parts that I didn't like. I'll say that off the top, like, the 2 girls that are, like, riding around, loved them. I thought they were adorable.
See, as characters, I didn't like the characters, but I don't think... Well, I guess you're not supposed to like Zoe. You're kind of supposed to like Blair.
Well, I thought the part that I thought was funny was when they were doing Fuck, Marry, Kill, and she's like, come on, just I think
he's like, I'll kill you.
Yeah, I'd kill you, and she's like, oh, he's got teeth, I thought that part was funny, but like I loved the 2 chicks, but then it's like
I thought they did well. I didn't really like Zoe's character, and then Blair was, she was kind of boring.
See, I liked her a lot.
I mean, she was just kind of like, no, I'm a nice vampire. And the dude was like, well, I'm the main character and you're like the main female character. So obviously we're in love.
Yeah. But like, and see, this is one of the things that bothers me. So the head of their little vampire organization is basically, was it Victor?
Victor.
Victor.
Like you hear Victor and like, that's a vampire name right there.
Yeah. Well, that or it's Frankenstein's name.
Yeah. He's a villain. He's got a V name.
Yeah. But like, it's played by Alfie Allen, who played Reek in Game of Thrones.
Oh, I've never seen Game of Thrones. I'm not going to either.
It's good. Just skip the last season. Yes, I'm one of them. I did not like the last season of the show. Very pretty. A lot of very pretty moments in the last season of Game of Thrones, but it's like, talk about a rush job that just did not pan out. Anyways, yes, he played. He played Reek.
Okay.
I thought he was good. Like, I thought the actor who played Victor was good. I did think he was intimidating. Like the part where he's like talking to them on the phone, like, where are y'all in the process of doing this? And they're telling him, and the dude like gets out the trunk of his car and starts crawling away. I did like that it looked effortless when he went back over and grabbed the guy's foot and like just drug him back to the car. Like.
See, whereas later on in the movie, I kind of made a note that I didn't think Victor could run a bath, let alone a vampire nation or whatever. Because I'm like, man, this guy they've not shown him be a leader necessarily. They show him like be intimidating to some ladies. But like, nah, while we've been talking to you, I've had my men like kill all your people for me. They're like, well, we've not really seen him interact with and show like good leadership and clever plotting or anything of the sort. So I just didn't buy him as like a leader.
Oh, I think they were just trying to make him like mysterious until the end of the movie where they had to like have the big face off, But even then, it didn't really work for me because like the chicks were doing all the work and this dude was just kind of like riding around doing whatever.
In the end, we get a sense that his organization is 3 people and implied other people because he had people that took care of.
He had the cop.
Yeah. But there was the cop. I guess the cop was Victor's, wasn't it? Not just a vampire known. No, he was
on Victor's payroll because he said something about Like one of them was like, "Do you want me to go back and tell Victor that, or
Yeah.
you want him?" Yeah.
I got the impression that the cop was just bought by the vampires in general, and because he was there kind of guarding the one feeding site.
Yeah. I'm just gonna go ahead and get this off my back. Like the narrative of the movie, and I don't want to be one of those people who's like a stickler because it's your movie. You can make any rules you want to for vampires, but it's like this movie picks and chooses so ridiculously. Like, what was the plan? I'm going to take out all the vampire lords of this particular area. I'm going to take out the other 5 guys, so I'm the shit.
Yeah.
Was it San Francisco or San Diego? Wherever it was, wherever his territory was.
Yeah.
What are the other cities and all the other states going to do about that when they find out there's a vampire that's running around killing their own kind? Like, it's Victor. He's the most feared guy ever. We're not gonna go fuck. No, fuck that. You're gonna go.
Or if it was like Vampire the Masquerade or whatever, and like in this city, like, oh, the Cam murdered everybody. For all the other cities, just to be like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah, like I think that was the thing. It was like, what was your? I just didn't get it.
Or was the implication that vampires only exist in this town?
It's just there was
like, we came to a truce and now we don't fight each other, but you're only talking about the one city. So does that mean vampires don't exist without the city? Like anything outside of the city, they don't exist.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't know either. And the whole thing where like we hunt your kind because you feed on humans. Well, you can't kill them. This dude had a fucking room downstairs of people hooked up to a blood bank
and draining them.
There, he was just draining them, and it's kind of like I feel like there would have been a system of checks and balances to make sure
he was the rebel. You'd think about because he's the guy that's going against the grain. You have to think about the one place that they actually showed, because there was like 5 bosses, and they showed you like one guy's house and then one of the businesses. The rest were kind of implied that they dealt with, and you go to the one business and like. The people there are cool with like, oh, we're into getting, fed off of. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of, I think the implication is that any of the victims are willing participants and therefore it's okay. And then you've got Victor. It's like I'm the crazy rebel vampire.
Yeah, you're all fucking ham sandwiches to me. I'm just going to go crazy.
Yeah.
And I get that. Like I think they've used that narrative, like, what was it, Russell in True Blood, where he was just like, I'm tired of hiding from you fucks, we're superior, and I'm going to show you that we're superior. Like, they've done that narrative to death at this point, but...
It's when I looked at Night Teeth, the category it had under was teen movies. So I tried to look at this as, you're 15, 16, flipping through, and you throw this movie on, maybe it's your first vampire movie, so I'm trying to like not think about all the other... I'm trying not to bring my vampire baggage to a vampire movie.
If in the future I ever come up to a snap decision like that, and you go and you find out some of those little headers that I did not see, just feel free to like, quash that and just be like, how about we go in another direction? Because I'd have been fine with that.
But you might find hidden gems.
Well, I mean, there were other movies that I could have suggested. Like, I think Eraserhead's on Netflix. And I have not seen Eraserhead, but it's like one of those movies that, since I was in my 20s, people are like, you need to go watch this fucking movie. Because it's supposedly, like, one of those ones that just completely blow you away.
Okay. But still, I mean, so I saw the category of movie, and I tried to, I guess, temper my expectations of it. And it was... Yeah, the main character was like passive through half of the movie, and then at the end he like, I don't know why he's, except for like Blair's like, oh, I want some of that vampire. I'm gonna start attacking vampire hunters, and I didn't buy it seems like this movie needs a romance, so we're just gonna toss it in there, and so they did. They just kind of tossed it in there.
She's a good one, guys.
Yeah, she's a good vampire. She wouldn't hurt anybody.
She ripped some dude's throat out earlier in the movie, but she's a good one. She's. We have to care about her, but the only thing that I cared about was she's good looking. She's not hard on the eyes at all. Speaking of good looking, Megan Fox is in this movie. Mm-hmm. So I picked her out immediately.
Oh, I didn't.
I did, and I think that was like one of the first stops they made, where like the chick is like,
it was where Victor went with
right, and the way they were talking to him confused me. Like, is Victor a vampire? Or is he one of the hunters? Because they're basically talking like they were just going to destroy him.
Yeah.
And I was kind of like, okay, well, apparently this guy isn't like I was literally wondering, what is the deal with this dude? Like, why are they not afraid of him if he's like Mr. the Shit? The part that I thought was interesting is that the girl they had that was her Megan Fox's partner was a complete and total smoke show. Like, she was hot. If I would have been Megan Fox, I would have been like, do not put her in frame with me. You know, like, find somebody else, but do not put her in frame with me, because, like, that girl was just, she, talk about draw the eyes.
I guess I don't remember. I just remember she had like a really kind of elaborate earrings that I thought were kind of cool.
Yeah, but like, you could tell who the actor was and who the actor wasn't, because she must have, I don't know, she must do like porn movies or something like that. I don't know, because like when she was, you had Megan Fox that's like, I'm going to eat you for even deigning to come in here, and that girl was like, yes, we're going to eat you. You know, like, she was very, very wooden, but she's, that one thing that they did right in this movie is that vampires are supposed to be good looking people, and I think they pulled that off pretty well.
I think everyone's kind of like, I don't know, attire and design and stuff was kind of cool.
Yeah,
I think the aesthetics in the movie were kind of neat. Like when they were doing the opening scene with the car driving, and they were like showing some of the scenes and the reflection on the car. I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. And they're driving up to like the first stop, and the way the flowers, whatever, were lined up looked like a vein. I'm like, okay, this is kind of neat. It has some neat little visuals to it. Just the storytelling's not top notch. The characters aren't particularly. I mean, nuanced or interesting.
I was blowing holes in that storyline by the end of it, and it wasn't even like me just being like, oh, vampire movies are supposed to be like this, and these are the rules of vampire. It wasn't that. It was like, what was the narrative choice here to like have this go down this way? Because it just didn't make any sense to me. But there were beats that I thought they were going to do. They didn't. Like when they established that Benny was a virgin. I bet you taste great. You know, and she made that comment about one of the dudes that was like in the beginning of the movie that were okay with being drinks. She's like, he tastes like motor oil. And it's like, okay, I get it. You have a bad diet. Like, apparently that makes your blood taste bad. When the girl, the asshole girl,
Zoe?
Yes. When she got shot and they're like, she needs blood. And like,
oh, you thought they were gonna?
I thought he was gonna throw his finger in the back seat so she could like heal up or whatever. Okay. So, but they didn't do that.
Yep.
And, one of the things I found ridiculous were the white phosphorus crossbow bolts.
Yeah. Well, they were so non-lethal that they were like just shooting them at the car, and they're just like going bing. Like, that's a total visual effect right there. Like, it's not even leaving a mark on the car. Like, these things are not scary.
But it's like, is the crossbow enchanted, which makes the bolt make that? Because you'd think it'd still kind of glow once it hit its target or whatever.
Well, I think we're coming at it from our D&D gamer angle, where you have magical crossbows. They don't establish magic in this universe, so I think they're just shooting.
Magic. It's magic. The fucking things glow when they're flying through the air. There's some kind of magic going on there. But like, yes,
it's like they got a light bulb on them. Like, vampires are hurt by light, so we're going to shoot light into them.
You know what I equated it to? Is a lot of stuff happens at night in dark areas. So it's like back in the day when you used to watch hockey games on TV, the hockey puck is moving around the rink so fast you can't see where it's at. So like they basically started making it glow red. So like John Q could follow the puck as it moved around.
So you think they're showing... They put the thing mostly on it so that the audience can kind of follow what's going on, and then they're just kind of like, it's white phosphorus or whatever. So
or something. I think it was just somebody was like, you can't see the bolts when they're flying through the air, so we can make the noise and we can have the people like holding the crossbow go, you know, to make it look like they're firing it, but like we have to add something to it. And then once they added that trail to it, someone was like, that makes it look badass, you know. So let's make all of them do it.
I mean, it looked neat. It had no impact on, like, it's kind of like someone doing CGI after the fact, and you're like, oh, it looks fine, it just doesn't fit into the environment in which you're putting it, because it leaves no impact on the environment. And also, like, the very first time they start shooting those things is when they're driving away, and like, oh shit, these things, like, they set these things up as being a big deal, but then the Night Legion just keeps missing with every shot, and then Zoe's leaning outside of the window like, yeah, come on, shoot me, and they're just missing entirely, but like, do these cars hunt vampires?
Apparently it was a G.I. Joe movie in the beginning, because no one gets shot. Everyone gets away clean.
And the ridiculousness of... I mean, like, you're not going to, like, shoot your heroes or whatever. But, I mean, by drawing such huge attention to where the arrows are going, you make it super obvious how awful of shots they are. And, like the Night Legion is just not scary.
No. And even then, I thought that their storyline was kind of whack as well.
So were they just people that didn't like vampires and they were just like chomping at the bits for the peace to go away so they could kill vampires, or did they hunt them in secret? Is that kind of like how it went?
I mean, the way I took it was like almost like the Salem witch trials, where you have the guys that hunt down the witches, and then in some storylines it's like we killed enough people until people said it was enough, and then the other storylines it was like the witches basically made a bargain where it's like, we'll stop sacrificing your children if you stop fucking hunting us. And it kind of seemed like it was the same thing with humans hunted vampires. And they even did the tongue-in-cheek thing with, like, you've made movies about us, and then you forgot about us, so now we walk amongst you, and there's so many more of us than you think. And it's kind of like, I think you'd notice if there was a parasite that was feeding off the human race, even if they gave it permission.
Especially with how, I guess, not subtle Zoe was. And she's like, oh, I'm 200 years old. Like, you've been this not subtle for 200 years.
Yeah, she would stick out like a sore thumb.
Yeah.
And even then, like the first time she like walks out, when like Blair walks out, and it's like, she's being so cute, and I'm such a nice vampire, and you better open the door for her. She's going to get upset. And it's like they set up the whole thing where it's like, okay, this chick is a huge cunt. You're not going to like her. She's supposed to be very unlikable, and she was for the most part. But I still thought she was fun.
I mean, yeah, Zoe was kind of just amusing, but still didn't necessarily like her.
Yeah, no. There wasn't much to like. Sorry, my puppy is in the pen. If I would have let her out right now, she would be walking around the table just constantly. She's a German Shepherd that's 2 years old, and she's got the energy of the mountains. So if you hear a little background noise, sorry. Anyways, what's something you have?
Well, I guess I just wrote that Jay, the vampire killer that kills vampires, seemed surprised how hard it is to kill a vampire. When he shot Vincent in the head, and he seemed like, oh my god, he didn't die when I shot him in the head. Like, you know vampires. I mean, if you like went to a werewolf and be like, oh, I'm a deal in werewolves only. I'm going to stab him with his pencil. Oh, the pencil didn't work.
Okay.
It's like, yeah, of course it didn't work.
Screenwriter was like, okay, so he's going to shoot him in the chest. He's going to try and hit him in the heart to kill him. Well, wouldn't it be cooler if he shot him in the forehead?
We'll shoot him in the head, and we'll have like a cool scene where you can like see the guy through the hole in his head.
Yeah, like when we can have like the blood and viscera, and you can see it like knitting up as he's talking and stuff like that. I mean, I guess, but he's a vampire hunter. Would it make more sense to like try and shoot him in the heart? Yeah, it would make sense. But we're gonna go in another direction on this,
and make sure to have him look as surprised as possible. That like, oh my god, I didn't know they could. I didn't know they could regenerate. So Jay's story. I mean, he's the B story in the movie, I guess, or maybe he's even the C story.
He's the C story
because there is what's going on with Benny and Blair and Zoe. Then there's what's going on with Victor. Then there's what's going on with Jay. But in a movie with 3 stories, he felt like the 4th story. Whereas it got so little to it, and it just felt pushed aside. And he seemed like more of an interesting character than what was going on. That maybe they could have explored that whole aspect of keeping the peace.
I mean,
could have been cooler than...
He kicked the storyline off. It started with him losing his girlfriend, and I thought, okay, this is where the meat of the story is.
Yeah.
And then it was weird that he pulled up to the place and found a person hanging, and it was all a ruse to get his girlfriend out the car. Now, the turn of what happened to the girlfriend, I thought that was funny.
Yeah, it's like, she's delicious.
Yeah.
I'm finishing her off now.
I thought that was, I mean, I'm glad they had the balls to pull that off, and they didn't have to do the whole save me thing, and then he saved her.
Yeah. Or like where I ended up turning her into a vampire, and now she's the...
Yeah. I'm glad they didn't do that.
Yeah.
But like, it's I agree with you. Like, he was the C storyline, and he was more like the D storyline, because like there's scenes where like him sitting in a car with another dude, it's like, meh, we gotta kill this guy, man, because if we don't kill him, it's the end of the world. No, it's probably the end of the Bay Area at most.
Yeah.
And then like someone's gonna step in and stop that shit. Most likely other vampires for like fucking up their gig.
Yeah. It's like we got a good deal going here. Because I mean, if like food just came to you and be like, no, we're cool being food. Just like, don't kill us.
Yeah, I mean,
how? It's like, great. We're not going to get found out at all, and we can just keep living forever.
We can live forever, and we've got awesome powers. It's like we have to lord it over the humans. Okay, that's great, but
See, the downside of this whole thing is the people don't know how amazing I am. Well, chill. We got a good thing going here.
How about the people that are like you know how amazing you are? Like, is that enough?
It's like, no. I must kill all of them.
You gotta flex on the people that can't stand up to you, and then you kill them. So, like, how impressive are you really?
Yeah.
So, anyways, but that's neither here nor there. His storyline sucked.
Yeah, he kicked off the movie, like you said, and I think it would have been... Because I was like... It seemed like early on with the shot of the car, I'm like, okay, this is going to be like a car movie. And it's kind of not. Like, they start setting it up like, you're going to get in this car, and you're going to, like, drive around the vampires, and all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, it's going to be like some sort of car movie. I don't really like car movies, but I'm ready for a car movie. And it wasn't that at all.
Like, what was even the point? Like, is he a vampire hunter that, like, he's a fucking chauffeur at night? And did he not know who was getting in the vehicle that night? Because it seemed like he did, because he's like, drive them where they want to go, and then go home.
Because I think it sounded like he'd heard of them later, like, oh, Zoe and Blair, I know those two, or something like that. So I think he heard of them, but I don't know if he knew that at the time. And I think that was more of like a second gig, because I imagine like he just owned this business or something like that. And it's like, oh, we just chauffeur people. And that they were vampires was kind of they found out that like, oh, he does this on the side, so let's get him involved and get him where we need him and kill him.
And see, that's the way I took it, because they're like, the guy says his name was it Lou? What was his name? Jay?
Yeah.
They said it was Jay, but it's not really Jay. It's
Benny.
It's Benny. And then it's kind of like, okay, we'll find him later. Okay. That was, I thought, a smart way to take it. But at the same time, it was kind of like, what was the end? What was the end goal? Like, was Jay playing it from the thing of, I'm going to have his two people away from Victor to make him easier to kill?
He wouldn't have put his brother in that situation if he knew that's what was going on.
And I think that was my biggest problem with it, is that I'm going to stick my brother, who, according to him, barely knows how to drive, and is, baby-faced innocent. I'm going to stick him in the car with two fucking she-monsters.
I think it's just they were high-paying, like, upper-class clients, and he's just like, this should be easy. They just want to go to a couple places. My brother can handle it. Because he was resistant to it at first. Like, his brother was just like, no, let me in. I want to make some money and help out the family or whatever.
Right.
So he's like, fine, you can do it. So he must not have known, which makes me think it's just a side gig, and that, like, because they're not really vampire hunters. They're more of like, we're here to, like, make sure the vampires keep the peace, and we're kind of like the vampire police peacekeepers.
That's fair.
And then you had, like, the Night Legion, which is like the vampire hunters, and then you had the vampires, and then you had like the people that are not in on it at all. So kind of like John Q. Public.
Maybe that's why they were so bad at firing the crossbows. It's like,
no, Night Legion was the one shooting them.
Yeah, but it's like they're so out of practice.
Yeah, right.
Like, everyone's kind of staying in line and doing what the fuck they're supposed to, and then all of a sudden you have to pick your crossbow, run out in the street, start firing like crazy, and fucking bloodsuckers running everywhere, and it's just like, I mean, it was just, maybe that's why they were so bad. But the way they talked in the car, meh, gotta fight these bloodsuckers. There's not going to be we're not going to have another morning. It's like, how much can you eat?
It's the piece is off. Now it's time to hunt these things. To make me think that in keeping peace, they've probably had to fight vampires in the past.
Yeah.
But it's got to been, Victor can't have been the first one to be like, no, I'm just going to kill somebody.
Yeah, hey, I'm sure he's not the first one to pop off, but I'm sure there's like a series of checks and balances. And maybe if they make night teeths, that we'll get more of that. Because, I mean, they definitely left the door open for like another movie if they wanted to. So if they made night teeths, then we could find out more about like that world or whatever. But it's just like, I guess the other thing I had was like, so in popular vampire lore that almost every one of them follow is, if you kill the master of like one particular person, then like all the other vampires underneath them die. So it's like you take out the head and the body dies.
Some follow, yeah. I mean, you to separate the head from the body, that tends to be, and then you could like burn the body or two. But again, they don't set up the rules. Like in the beginning of this movie, they kind of go, and they've made movies about us, and they never get it all right. So I'm like, okay, they're just kind of throwing that all aside. Okay. And then they pretty much throw everything aside.
Yeah.
I mean, sunlight kills them pretty quickly.
The arrows wound them, Because
I think they're supposed to be like infused with light, and that's why they're kind of hurt. And why the bullet just like went through his head and he's fine. They shot an arrow that had like some sort of sunlight, like when you watch Underworld and they're shooting the phosphorus bullets versus the silver nitrate bullets. Okay. It's cool. They've got these arrows can hurt vampires. Whatever. I'm fine. Whatever.
Okay.
Not a big deal. So some sort these enchanted arrow bolts can do it, and apparently they've got like these daggers that are also. It's like these daggers are like okay, there's something special about the daggers. No, there might have been.
They just never really got to it.
They just never really got around to it. They don't. So they kind of vaguely go over what vampires do. They're strong. They're quick, apparently, because when Benny tries to run from the car, Zoe's already
she's already outside.
Already outside. So
you don't hear the car door slam or nothing.
No, the door's not no door open. She's there. So they're fast. They're strong. Sunlight will get rid of them, and like I guess these arrows hurt, and like these magic daggers or something. So okay, whatever. They don't really go over vampire lore in this one, which is fine. You don't necessarily have to.
So let's talk about Benny's plan.
You mean when he stops at the stoplight and he's like, I'm just going to run away from these ladies?
It's not that. Like, at the end of the movie where it was like, they have the girl that I like. Mm-hmm. They have my brother.
Yep.
I have to do something. Mm-hmm. So he looks back at the sunlight and you're like, okay, he's going to find a crafty way to use sunlight. That was a rather large house.
Yep.
How did he know they were taking him to the den?
Yep.
Like, talk about the happen chance there.
The car's not even pointed at the window.
Yeah, and then when it does go through the window,
it stops right there.
It stops right there, and there's just enough sunlight that just like gets everyone he wants, and his girlfriend is right on the edge of becoming a fucking, like
crispy critter.
Yeah,
he's super lucky.
Yeah, that. Oh man, talk about making the dominoes fall the way you want them.
It's like I played you like a fiddle.
Yeah, but I'd say once again, that's me literally yanking at threads because you need it to happen this way because that's you need the movie to get there. But
it's again ultimately it's we need a way to catch him off guard, and he was thinking ahead.
The dude's long shot. Like he literally has a fucking luck aura around him because he puts his foot in it so many fucking times in that movie, and something happens where they're like, let's keep him around. Like he had, what's it called? When certain characters are like completely immune to death because
plot armor?
Yeah, plot armor. Like that dude had plot armor coming out the ass. But yeah, we're totally like dunking on this movie right now, but it's not the worst movie ever.
I mean, it's I'm in a 4 out of 0 to 10.
As long as
it's slightly below average. Which means I think some people are going to watch it and they're going to think it's slightly above average.
Yeah.
I think it's got room to vary. And I always think that, personally, I think that if you pick a movie, it's someone's favorite movie. Someone is going to rate, any movie a 10. And you might be like, well, how? This movie's awful. To somebody, it means something. And I think if maybe we were younger and this was one of the first vampire movies we saw, and we're not so, old and cynical, maybe we get more enjoyment out of it.
Especially when you get that part with Megan Fox and
yeah. It's where you're just kind of watching it, and I mean, I think most of the characters or most of the actors in this are pretty young. Maybe in 5 years' time, a couple of them have blown up, and then you go back and watch this, and you're like, oh, cool. I remember. In going back and watching this movie, I already like this actor. Mm-hmm. Therefore, this movie is better. It's kind of like when you go back and watch something with Tom Hanks, knowing his full breadth of work. Mm-hmm. When you go back and watch one of his old movies, you're just kind of like, oh, it's Tom Hanks.
Big is just a bad movie.
Big is a bad movie, but watching it with Tom Hanks, I kind of like it.
Yeah, it's Tom Hanks.
Because it's a Tom Hanks movie, and he's just acting all...
There's just something about you I like. I get that a lot. Yeah.
So, I mean, you can go back and look at movies that maybe aren't amazing, but because they've got someone you like in them. And I think this movie has potential for someone to, for Zoe's actress, which I wrote down her name at least, Lucy Fry. I've never heard of her before, but maybe she goes off and does, something super popular. And then people come back and watch this movie and they just look at it a little bit more favorably because her part was kind of cool.
But, I mean, that can also be a blessing and a curse because you had Megan Fox, who was in Transformers. Yep. And then she tried to, ascend Transformers and become a serious actor, but, she's always going to be chained to Transformers.
Yeah, well, I think people just...
Typecasting is bad.
Yeah.
That's something that
she's tried, Jennifer's Body was pretty good, if I remember right. Not great.
Isn't she a succubus in that movie or something?
She ends up becoming...
Spoiler!
That one's old too.
Well, I haven't seen it, but I could at least glean that from the trailers.
But it's a movie that's... It's not bad, and she's trying to get away from typecasting, but you kind of feel the tugs of, you're a pretty woman, you have to be the eye candy, and getting tugged right back where necessarily she doesn't necessarily belong. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, typecasting is bad.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah, I've always felt like if somebody had enough willpower and heart to like write a script on something, to go out, fund it, direct it, put it out there, it's worth at least someone watching it. But I have seen some movies that have contradicted my thought on that. That it was like they're shameless cash grabs that were exist just to get your money.
Yeah, where like everyone's funded just to. Well, this is the next popular thing. We're just gonna. But I mean, someone on that movie isn't on it just to make money. There's got to be people that have passion projects for stuff.
So the guy that played Benny, I really liked him.
Yep.
I thought he did a good job.
I think I liked all the actors. I just didn't necessarily like all the characters. And I didn't necessarily like what they did with Jay's storyline, but I mean, everyone is fine.
Yeah, it's just there's just so much in that movie. It was just exhausting at some points where it's like, what are they going for here? Like, what are they trying? But
I think it's a neat concept that could have been expanded upon. Essentially, pick one of your plot elements and focus on it a bit more, and maybe have Jay been kidnapped in the beginning of the movie so we don't have to follow his plot, and instead it's about Benny getting his brother back or something. I don't know. Or he goes missing, so he takes over his brother's business for him, and then he finds out that his brother is tied up in this whole vampire plot, and do something that way.
If you're gonna make hunters, make them cool.
Yeah,
and
make them shoot accurately.
Something like it just that was the most boring part of the entire movie. They just seemed like some fucking Goombas out there that were just like running around with fucking crossbows, and then like why did it have to be crossbows? Just bullets that were like. Just the fucking like tip of them was like dipped in holy water or some dumb shit.
Underworld's already done that.
They were blessed. Did they do blessed bullets?
No, they did light bullets. So it's essentially concentrated light that when you get shot with it, it like spreads sunlight through you and it burns you out.
Pretty sure Blade did that first.
It's been done.
They had the light grenades or whatever.
Yeah, essentially it's all been done. So I think the phosphorus crossbow bolts made for a cool visual. I just would have liked to have seen them maybe like get close and maybe like the vampires use their speed to dodge it rather than it just being pure misses.
Well, I mean,
miss after miss, not even close. Like
not only that, but
draw a picture of a vampire, encircle it with arrows.
Yeah, if you're that fast, like I can imagine crossbow bolts, you'd be like, get that shit out of here. Just like catching them and shit. But like bullets, maybe a little harder.
Yeah, and I think them snatching the bolts out of the air would have been pretty cool, and would have explained for like why are these not working very well? Oh, cool. So he's snatching arrows out of the air. Like,
okay. So on page 42 of the script, I have the vampire hunters going after Zoe and Blair. They're going to fire crossbows at them. And then they're going to snatch the arrows out of the air with their super speed that we basically allude to with Zoe getting out of the car.
Well, let's see. It sounds like prop arrows would cost money. So how about we just CGI those and make them miss?
But wouldn't it be cooler if, like, she snatched one or two? Because we've already alluded that she has this power. So if she just catches, like, a few arrows, but bolts, crossbow bolts, I mean, it would look awesome, right?
Okay, but how about not?
How about one? She catches one crossbow bolt.
Fine, but in the gut.
All right, you got me. But... all in all, even though we've trashed on this enough, the movie's okay.
Yeah.
It's. I don't regret that I watched it, but at the same time,
I mean, if you're like, you're gonna watch this movie, I wouldn't have changed watching it. I'm not gonna go back and rewatch it.
No. That was definitely a one and done. Matter of fact, that's what we'll make that category, one and done, for movies like that. But yeah, it was just, it's forgettable. But at the same time, it wasn't torture.
It had some neat visuals. Some of the actors did pretty good.
So if Night Teeth is your kind of movie, go watch it.
Yeah,
it's okay.
It's for somebody, and for us,
it's fine.
It's fine.
It's fine.
It's just marginally below average. It's fine.
I am not wasting any more of my time talking about this movie.
Yeah,
so.
I think us giving 40 minutes to this movie is super nice.
40 minutes?
I know, right?
Holy shit, that's 20 minutes more than we thought we were going to talk about it. Okay.
But I think we watched it, we considered it, we gave it a chance. And it's fine.
Okay. Well, do you have anything else you'd like to say about Night Teeth or Night Teeths? The second movie that's sure to come out.
No, I think we pretty much went over all the little bits and bobs that we could have pulled out of this movie.
We won, internet. We won.
We did it. We
did the thing.
We were at home in our own respective houses, being like, what are we gonna? Let's see what's on Netflix. And
hey, Nick, I think we're going to have some extra time to do an extra recording. Let's find a movie. Okay, find something that we haven't seen. Shit. I know he has Netflix. So, anyways, yes. Night Teeth is a 4 out of 10. And that being a grading scale of 0 to 10. Think about it. It makes sense.
It does make sense. And you need an odd number.
Yeah. You need that middle ground. Otherwise,
you're putting in 0.5s.
Yeah. We don't like 0.5s. Yeah. Even though kind of the scale we're doing is still kind of 0.5s, but
it's a scale from 1 to 11, essentially.
Well, I mean, we're playing with Spinal Tap rules, so I'm fine with that.
The scale goes to 11.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, I think that's enough that we've said about it. So until next time, I've been Lance.
And I'm still Nick.
Still Nick?
Yeah.
I guess I'm still Lance then, too.
All right.
And we'll see you on the next one.
Thanks for watching.